Yo, what is good, YouTube? It's your boy Leach, back here with another reaction video. Make sure y'all hit that sub button, turn them notices on, and make sure y'all follow the socials on the screen to be much appreciated. I give thanks to the man above for another day. God bless. I love y'all, man. And yet, let's get right into it. One trade every Western Conference contender should make. NBA trade deadline look ahead.
To go through one trade that the West contenders should make, and we're going to start with those defending champs and the current odds favorites, as you just saw there. Who should OKC acquire ahead of the trade?
Okay, hear me out. It's unusual to suggest a selling trade for the team with the best record in the NBA. I'm going to throw this out there. Lou Dort not having a great year. The Thunder obviously have a surplus when it comes to perimeter defense. And Oklahoma City tends to act pretty quickly, trading guys before you think they need to. Whether it's Serge Ibaka, Paul George.
Mock trade,
could they
so a
trade
trade.
Lou Dort for a haul?
Thunder received Sexton, a
unprotected
2020
first-round pick
31
from a Bucks team that, frankly, right now is desperate
Bucks
to get some
Lou
defense,
Dort,
some
Hornets,
athleticism to support Giannis Antetokounmpo to convince him to potentially stay beyond this season. So here's what I've got. Can you get a 2031 first-round pick from the Bucks? You send Lou Dort to Milwaukee. The Thunder, with a huge second apron bill coming up, they're not going to want to take back any of Milwaukee's big contracts because they're all multi-year deals. So we go to Charlotte. The Hornets could use an extra big. We send Bobby Portis from Milwaukee to the Hornets, and we send Colin Sexton from the Hornets to the Thunder. In addition to getting that valuable first-round pick, in addition to saving some money next year, you get Lou Dort off of your books. You also bring in a nice offensive guard. You know, shot creation at times has been a little bit of a challenge for the Thunder beyond Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't know how much they would use him considering how defensively oriented that team is. But this is mostly about getting the pick and saving the money anyway.
Yeah.
If it turns out you can use Colin Sexton, beef up your offense a little bit, all the better.
I would like that.
All right, you're already starting spicy. This is exciting for me. So let's move on to Houston here. Despite a strong 22-11 start, the Rockets have a clear deadline need. Fred VanVleet out for the season. So the question is whether Houston goes and gets a veteran point guard to steady the backcourt. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumblings, like, could they try to use Fred VanVleet's contract to bring in, like, a big-name guard, you know, a Trae Young, a John Morant, LaMelo Ball, those class of stars. I don't think that's feasible for a variety of reasons. Really I think you're shopping in sort of the bargain bin here, looking for a guard making $7-8 million, something like that.
I mean, you would love to get LaMelo,
but
what
they already have with all of that defense and with Reed Shepard ascending. So I look at the Rockets and I say, could you use Dorian Finney-Smith instead of Fred VanVleet to trade for your guard?
Jason Tate,
you have such a surplus on the wing, you can afford to give him up. But there is so much league-wide need for 3-and-D
and they get Ayo
that you could absolutely trade.
I mean, Ayo's pretty good.
So I look at Ayo Dosunmu.
He's pretty solid.
Bulls. He's an impending free
agent. I would do that. I mean,
Chicago's
going to think you still got Jabari Smith. Like, they still got good wings.
We throw in some second-round picks. And that way,
you need a guard, so I would.
They duck the luxury tax. I know most fans aren't thinking about that, but when you consider how punitive the repeater tax gets and how long we're thinking the Rockets are going to be contending, they're a very young team. They're going to be very expensive for a long time. Let's delay that repeater tax clock just an extra year. Make it a little bit easier on ownership to keep that team together so you improve your guard depth and you save a little bit of money, which is always nice too.
All right, chess, not checkers for our guy Sam Quinn. All right, as the deadline nears, the Spurs likely not chasing a blockbuster here, right? Perhaps adding some perimeter shooting to spread the floor around Wemby. What do you think?
Yeah, I think shooting is the one area the Spurs could look at and say that's where we could really afford to improve. That Harrison Barnes slot is probably the one they'd be looking to upgrade on. So let's look at the New Orleans Pelicans. Trey Murphy, one of the most
I would love that for the Spurs.
You know, not quite an all-star.
Get rid of Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sohan. I would do it. 2026 first round pick. Yeah.
Let's throw a bunch of draft picks at New Orleans and make them say no. I have the Spurs sending 3 first-round picks to the Pelicans. One in 2026, one in 2028, and one in 2031.
I can't talk.
Why those specific years?
Trey Murphy to the Spurs, bro? Yo, that would be a hell of a trade.
You're not getting Spurs picks. You're getting picks from other teams.
I would love that
in
for
2026.
Spurs. I mean, the Pelicans, they get a good return. So, like,
2028, yeah, 2028, it would be Boston.
I mean, Harrison Barnes, obviously older. Jeremy Sohan, he's all right.
You're getting a pick from the Sacramento Kings, who have missed the playoffs in 17 of the last 18 years. History says that's probably going to be a lottery pick.
You want to get rid of Trey Murphy,
you throw 3 first-round picks in front of the Pelicans. You make them say no.
It's kind of hard
Trey
not
Murphy
to
on
get
a very favorable long-term deal. The Spurs could bring him in, and he could fit into their salary structure for a long time.
Yeah, all right, so you have the Spurs throwing a bunch of picks at the Pelicans here. One name for the Pelicans that I always find interesting, especially around this trade deadline, is Zion Williamson. Do you see any movement with him?
I think it's going to be difficult, but not impossible. The advantage that Zion Williamson has is that he's on a non-guaranteed deal. So theoretically, you could trade him as a player. Somebody might just want him, but you could also trade him as a cap dump where somebody says, hey, I have a multi-year deal that I want to get off of. Can we trade him to you, maybe give you a draft pick, take back Zion with the intention of cutting him? Zion has played so well since he came back from this injury that I actually wouldn't be surprised if a team like Chicago, a team with a talent deficiency, somebody just looking for some upside, actually did give up value for him. I think it's entirely plausible that they trade him before the deadline. The Pelicans really do need a rim protecting center next to Derek Queen. Derek Queen has kind of supplanted Zion as the offense-centric big man in New Orleans, so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know quite how big that market is at the moment, but I think the Pelicans understand that salary slot for them makes much more sense going to a defensive center than somebody like Zion.
Makes a ton of sense. All right, Sam, it seems like the Lakers are hunting one thing, a real two-way wing.
The Lakers.
How did they do that? Is something interesting happening with the Maka trade here as well?
Yeah, the Lakers are a very difficult team to trade with because they're not going to want to take on long-term money. They're set up for cap space this offseason, and they're not going to want to give up, some of their very, very limited first-round draft capital because they want to use that in the offseason to trade for an all-star. So basically what you're looking at here is, do you have one of your own expiring contracts that might make more sense for another team that then would have players that make sense for you who are also on expiring contracts? So I look at the Portland Trail Blazers. They don't have much shooting. Their offense has been kind of up and down. Now they've had a lot of injuries. Could you send them Rui Hachimura to juice up their offense?
Lakers get Robert Williams
III to be your new backup center and take a chance on Matisse Thybulle, who's had a lot of injuries lately.
Yeah, I don't know. Both of them guys are
one of the better perimeter defenders.
Rui Hachimura to the Blazers don't connect Jackson Hayes
injury risk here with both
2032 second round pick.
Absolutely. But remember, you're really only thinking here, can we get somebody or get a couple of players rather who can improve our defense, improve our effort and energy for the rest of this season?
I like it from both sides, but
well, you probably weren't winning the championship anyway.
I wouldn't see it any world why the Blazers wouldn't want to get rid of Rob Williams.
This is a low-risk, high-reward shot at some players who really fill your needs more than Rui Hachimura does. Rui Hachimura is a very good player, but he's expensive and he's not much of a defender. He's not much of a hustle player. The Lakers built
Rui, he's good on offense, but he really played
and Austin Reeves.
Thybulle, though, when he's healthy, bro.
They need guys who are going to play defense, who are going to play with energy. They could use shooting, certainly, but Rui Hachimura just hasn't really been a fit next to those guys.
All right, well, that is our Sam Quinn breaking everything down and what these...
But that's going to do it for one trade every Western Conference contender should make. Let me know in the comment section down below. Are we going to see any crazy trade deadline moves? I would love to know. Like I said, I haven't really... on my break, I really didn't watch sports like NBA, NFL, college football. I've kind of took a break from it, but I would love to know. I like most of these trades they did. Most of these make sense. They did a really good job. But yeah, make sure y'all follow the socials on the screen. Be much appreciated. And I'm out. Peace.